So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Matt and I. Hope you enjoyed listening to us share our top 10 movies of 2025. A few people reached out saying that they agreed with certain picks, some were questionable. Always love to hear some feedback from the people, and hopefully, yeah, if anyone else wants to check those out, let us know what you think, and yeah. Snuff episode 178 of Eazy Conversations. I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. Say what's up to the people.
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great day right now. Eric, I'm super excited for tonight's episode. We just finished off our 3 top 10 shows. That was like a grueling, grind all of last year to do these. Now moving on to something a bit more relaxing, in my opinion, and just like easy going. Can't wait to discuss the topic. And why don't you let the listeners know what we're going to be discussing, Eric?
Absolutely. So yeah, like you said, man, after the top tens to start the year off are done, it's kind of back to the drawing board. What are we gonna discuss? Thankfully, we're getting an onslaught of good content that could lead to other subsequent episodes. But for this one, we're choosing to go over the latest Game of Thrones spin-off show that's become somewhat of a cult fan favorite in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So this show, just a bit of background, I feel like was not heavily advertised or marketed to the masses, where a lot of people I know had no idea that this show was even out. They're like, yeah, I've heard about this on week 3 and people are kind of liking it. It's getting some buzz. Started checking it out. And yeah, then I watched from that point on. So right there, it was really a sleeper show. I of course was aware that this show was coming. I've actually read the novella, which composes of 3 short stories that the plan is to make 3 seasons, each one covering one of those short stories.
Okay.
And I wasn't that excited for it, given the fact that House of the Dragon season 2, not my favorite. Feel like they're kind of just pumping out, like they're trying to get as many spin-offs out to the masses. These are unknown actors too. I went in with very moderate expectations, all that to say. And overwhelmingly, this show has been extremely well received. So, really excited to get into this show, Matt. But first, what was your kind of viewing experience, kind of like I just described, going into it and then watching it? What was that like for you?
Well, going into it, I knew nothing about this subject matter, and I was just going to ask you, and you've already answered this, but did you read The Hedge Knight by George R. Martin? And you have, which we can talk about that later.
Of course.
So I didn't know anything about Sir Duncan the Tall and Egg. Maybe they mention it in the Game of Thrones books quickly. Can't remember. It's been a while since I've read them, but I'm going in blind, Eric. Going in totally blind into this show. All I know is it's 100 years before Robert's Rebellion and the Game of Thrones story, and excited, but also a bit cautious as to okay, these are going to be shorter, a shorter, small scale season of Game of Thrones where there's no big stakes in political power plays. It's like ground level Game of Thrones. This is my best way to describe this show. So those are my initial thoughts going in, a bit scared that it'd be too simplistic and too minimalistic. So those are my initial thoughts. Did you want me to get into a first impression of the show, Eric, or did you want to, what were your immediate, after episode 1, what was your reaction?
Okay, so yeah, I kind of thought the same. Even in having read the book, I kind of forgot about what happens ultimately. I knew how it ended, but forgot about the journey really. And they did even add some extra stuff in there in terms of adding flashbacks for depth and giving us some backstory on some of the characters, which I appreciated. But yeah, I knew that the episodes are going to be shorter too, which going into a show like this, a drama, I normally like my episodes an hour long. HBO, primetime TV, the more the merrier for me. But now, in having seen the show right from the first episode, we'll start there. It was, I want to say, the longest episode, 40 some minutes. I was, and this applies for the whole season, always left wanting more, but fully satisfied to the point that I was fine that there wasn't more. Because I feel like not a second was wasted on the screen, and the short episode format really worked for this story. And it represents the whole show really, where like you said, everything is smaller scale. It's a look at the boots on the ground common man of Game of Thrones.
Hmm.
You're not gonna devote an hour for 8 episodes in a season about a normal dude like a Raymond Fossaway, for example. Like those guys aren't getting that much limelight, and it's represented in the format and length of the episodes, and it just amplified the viewing experience. So yeah, I'll just say right off the like I loved this show. I thought it was such a good first season for this show, and I'll just say now I hope they keep this small scale format going forward. I hope I'm sure the budget's going to go up in season 2 and 3, but I kind of want them to maintain this smaller scale and don't expand to these like House of the Dragon political large scale battles and everything. Like, give me more tourneys, less full on wars. So that's kind of an opening impression on the show.
I'm totally in agreement with you, Eric. I absolutely love this show too. I'll just flat out say it now. We'll definitely get into spoilers later, guys. But like my initial impression of the show is, I loved it because I was never bored. The pacing was super tight. It was fast. You know, this would have normally been like 2 hours of a slower pace, like House of the Dragons format. But instead, we got 6 half-hour episodes. Like watching one really long movie. Never boring, always something going on. And the political stuff that is in the show, the small stuff, is just you have to use your imagination, and it's all there but not explained. You know, like we'll get into the Targaryens later, quite a few of them this season 1, but stuff there. But our focus is Duncan and Meg, and that's what I love. Mm-hmm. And I think Duncan, he's got characteristics that we can all relate to, which is why he's a likable character, in my opinion. There are a lot of likable characters in this show, which is another strength of this show, which stuff I can relate to. Yeah, I can't relate to living in medieval times or in a fantasy land, but I can relate to the interactions Duncan has and the awkwardness and situations he's put in that's hard at first, and being an unknown, a stranger, just showing up, and like he took a lot of courage. He doesn't always appear courageous, but it took a lot of courage to do for what he did in the show. Do you just want to get into the characters, Eric, or do you have anything more in the format or anything, initial thoughts? Or
I mean, I think format, we've covered it. I think it's kind of a breakdown of the characters and events, and we got to start with Dunk, right? He is the titular character, the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and I love, like, again, the representation of the common man, a hedge knight of all things too, where that's a type of knight we've spent no time discussing or giving any screen time to in Game of Thrones. So it's nice to see that struggling knight literally sleeping under a tree in the rain, peddling coins to get into inns or fighting in the service of unknown lords too, and not getting any recognition for it. It's really the grind of, if you're not born in a noble house, the son of a lord, you're having to make it through life on your own in these difficult circumstances, and it's a survival of the fittest.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also a good person, right? Who, while sure not the sharpest tool in the shed, he will stand up for what's right, and like you said, has a lot of those relatable qualities that we can see in ourselves, and kind of think like, I feel like this is how I would act in this situation, standing up for someone being wronged, or just wanting to prove myself in this tournament to show that I belong with these highborns, and who doesn't want a bit of glory and recognition at the end of the day, right? He's a newly minted knight, so, or is he? And he's just trying to, find out where he can ascend in the world. And I did like when he met the King's Guard, and one of them did say, like, yeah, like, I came from nothing, and now I'm in the King's Guard. And then you come to find out that, like, his dad was, like, he owns, like, the fleet of crabbers or whatever there. So another big plus of the show, I'll just quickly get into, is the humor. I thought it was a really funny show, where they did have a lot of, toilet humor, if you will, but overall it worked. And they had a great way of balancing off the heartfelt moments with, like, a fart right after. Like, it shouldn't work, but it did.
Yeah, like the tone wasn't too serious, which You just said it, Eric. I appreciate that. This is definitely like, unlike Game of Thrones, this is how the other half of Westeros lives, you know, like the people struggling and trying to make ends meet. Um, and him in the inn, and then Duncan meeting Egg, and that's when we meet the second, like, the second most important character, or the second main character, we'll say, the sidekick character, who was brilliantly portrayed. That actor did a great job.
So good.
Egg, also known as full spoiler, guys, but Aegon the Fifth. Actually, I looked that up.
Nice.
Son of Maekar Targaryen, but no, like, he's great. Like, he's possibly smarter than Dunk already at a young age, and not possibly, he is. And it's a good little dynamic we have going on. It's like a buddy comedy type deal we had in the first few episodes when they're approaching the tourney. Like, I like the banter, the witty back and forth. Dunk isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, 100%, but like, how was he ever supposed to be? He grew up in Flea Bottom, for Pete's sake, and Sir Arlen doesn't look like he talked much when Dunk was a squire, and we never really know that full dynamic. Like, Sir Arlen, like, like, how much did he actually teach Dunk and do, and is it, I don't know, it's a lot left to the imagination, and maybe it goes more in the book, I don't know. But I love the Egg Dunk dynamic we first initially get until we approach the tourney. That was cool. And I mean, every episode you're finding out more and more stuff, and I think end of episode 3 you find out that Egg is a Targaryen. This season is definitely a build up to the jousting, to the actual tournament. But a lot of the action in the show, Eric, is from Duncan's perspective, so we don't really get to see everything that maybe we would have wanted to see, but we follow Duncan. To me, Duncan is super interesting, and the way he navigates his own, like, he does his own thing to navigate through the world, and he gets himself in situations. I love the scene, Eric. We can touch on this. Like, when he first gets to the tourney and meets all these lords, and there come all the name drops, the Easter eggs, right? Like Dondarrion and a million other names, right, Eric? So what do you think of this, like, also Baratheon? Like, what do you think of this, like, all these side characters that we're introduced to at the tourney?
It was so good, and you're right. Like, the season was a build up to the jousting, but I loved every single scene we got with the different little layers of what a tournament entails, where we've seen tournaments in every show, Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, but not in this intricate level of detail as to the merchants, the puppeteers, the blacksmiths, everyone who's involved in this big production, and those little Easter eggs. Like, there's a Tyrell name drop, let's go party in the Baratheon tent. You know, the Fossaways are bringing the cider. Let's hit them up for a pint. You know, like, all of those brotherly, the camaraderie, the jokes, the absurdities, all of that was so fun to see. And I could have spent even more time hearing those characters, like, dance around with the ritualistic, you know, just hops and everything, like the songs that they're singing and everything. Like, Daniel Ings, who played Lionel Baratheon, fantastic in this show. Everyone was perfectly cast, but I was a big fan of his character. He was, you're used to seeing this guy in comedic roles, and he definitely was a comedic relief in this show, but also had moments of brilliance and deep quotes that he was dropping. It makes sense. I mean, he is a lord, so it makes sense that he, while being fun-loving, can drop some gems, drop a gem on him here and there with his mob. But no, really good. I loved all those little scenes, the interactions in the tents and stuff. It showed, like, every single facet of a tournament and the common man's experience in that tournament. But I just want to highlight also Egg. Egg was so good. The actor who played him was fantastic. Dexter is the actor's first name. I don't have his last name in front of me there, but just amazing cast. Dexter, Saul, Ansel, so good. And that was the turning point in the season, where episodes 1, 2, and 3, it's all fun and games. You got the brotherly bond that they've established at the tourney. Like, he's like the big bro, like, giving him a sip of beer. He's like, oh, that's disgusting. And they're watching all these events. It's fun. But then when Egg unveils his identity, that's when things shift from comedic to serious, and the season just elevated even more from that point on. But no. Really, really good stuff. And I guess the last note I'll just say, we're talking about like not the sharpest tool in the shed. Speaking of tool, Sir Arlen of Pennytree is just packing an absolute horse cock out there. Just
that was shocking.
insane way to open episode 2.
I I didn't know how they topped the opening of episode 1, which was toilet humor. But episode 2, like someone told me at work, like you won't believe what happens in episode 2 at the beginning. It was like Boogie Nights at the end with Mark Wahlberg, but like times 10. I couldn't believe it, Eric. There's like a shocking scene in almost every episode. You know, Splinter in the eyeball in the 3rd episode, and that was like, whoa. You know, you said a lot of good stuff, Eric. Just quickly before I get into some of the other characters, did you guess Egg was a Targaryen? Like, did that come out of left field? Because for me, like, I totally didn't expect that. Well, I just wasn't thinking. But did you think that?
Well, I read the book, right? So that's how I knew.
Right.
That's how I knew. Yeah, but I do wonder for everyone who didn't, like you, if it's you could easily guess that. I don't really see how you could. I feel like they hint towards like there's something up with him where whenever there was a shot of the Targaryens riding into the tourney, for example, the camera would go to Egg and he'd be looking away as you see them in the background kind of thing. There are little things like that, but I don't know if that's enough for someone who doesn't know to tip them off of, oh, he's Maekar's son. Like, I don't know if that's a reasonable leap anyone could make, right? So
I definitely didn't see that coming at all. Yeah. When they were mentioning like the 2 sons were missing, they're looking for them, maybe my spidey sense was tingling, but like, no, I completely dismissed that. Before we get into the Targaryens though, Lionel Baratheon, yes, I like that the man probably uses his humor as like a shield and as a disarming people, but make no mistake, the man's powerful and survives the trial of the 7. And just surviving that trial of the 7 is a huge feat because that was insane. Like, the man is a Baratheon and an ancestor of Robert and Stannis and Renly. Like, he's definitely a badass, but uses that humor, I bet you, to disarm people. And to appear weak, when you're strong, you have to appear weak, you know, to disarm, you don't want to be a target, right? So, and you could see the hatred for the Targaryen even then, of course. I think the Stormlords never have liked the Targaryens, so... you get a bit of Baratheon versus Targaryen action going there. You know, he immediately joins Dunk's side in the trial, so that was cool little foreshadowing. A lot of foreshadowing of maybe the events here helped shape the future, especially with the result of the trial, like with Baelor. But before we get into the Targaryens, and I keep saying that, but like the Fossaways, those were cool little side characters. The asshole cousin and Raymond. What a betrayal right before the fight, like turning sides. What a dirtbag. Dunk should have never have trusted him, but that's Dunk. He's a trusting person. He will trust you. He sees the good in man. He's a little naive, sure, but he is a good person, man. He truly thinks he could do this, win the joust and the trial, but like reality sets in quick during the battle, right? Like what he lacks in experience in combat, he makes forth in raw brute strength. Thank God he's huge, because that's his only advantage. But yeah, want to get into the Targaryens, Eric? I don't know. I have lots to say on them. Did you want to touch on any other characters
just
first?
Quickly add on to the Fossaways. Like, there's not too much to say, but I was devastated when the Stefan Fossaway is the cousin's name, when he's the first one to get recruited by Raymond, and he immediately says, like, I'm there for you, even though earlier in the season he had been shown to be an asshole to his cousin and just in general not the most likable dude, but then stepped up in the moment. I'm pretty sure when I was watching, I was like, let's go, man. Like, I got fired up to watch, to see how potentially a questionable guy can see what is right and wrong and align himself with someone who was just standing up for a freaking woman getting her fingers yanked out of their sockets, right? So he knows he can see some semblance of right or wrong. Obviously that flips later in the episode, but disappointing. But Raymond Fossaway, one of the biggest MVPs of the season, sneaky starts off as, is he even a squire to his cousin? I think he is, but then he ends up an anointed knight at the hand of Lionel Baratheon, and ends up being a baby daddy at the end. Gets bags one of the whores. Like he's on cloud nine at the end of it. He's gonna have a booming enterprise of beautiful green apple cider, and I'm throwing this out there right now. I don't know if this is fact or not, but I have a feeling he's like an ancestor of Sir Podrick Payne. He reminded me of Pod a lot, and I feel like down the line, Pod owes his feats of strength to his great-great-grandfather, Sir Raymond Fossaway. That's kind of my call there, but someone can fact check me on that. But I was getting big-time Pod vibes. I just wanted to let that be known on the pod here. But yeah, so those were the Fossaways were good, and that's what I like too. Every single character we interacted with played a part in this story. So there was even the guy the tournament host who for some reason wouldn't stop spitting in this bucket he walked everywhere with. He was kind of annoying, honestly, but brought some entertainment to the fold. Never mind. But so the Targaryens. I've been going on the Fossaways. Do you want to tee up the Targaryens, or your thoughts on them?
Yeah, they were one of the most interesting parts of the show. We know the Targaryens are still ruling the Iron Throne at this point. The king during the show is King Daeron II, Daeron the Good, his nickname. And this is 100 years before Aerys, the Mad King. So like we're kind of seeing like the last of like maybe not golden age, but the good Targaryens rule, because I can already start to see in this show how the Targaryens are going to screw everything up and seed hatred in the land and have, the rebellion happen 100 years later just by watching Maekar's interactions. So like the two sons of the king in the show are Prince Baelor, who's the eldest son, and Prince Maekar. Baelor is the one who's cool, calculating, cunning. Loved every minute Baelor was on the screen. One of my favorite characters. Didn't get enough of him. But then his brother Maekar is more conniving and sneaky. And that's like the Targaryens I'm used to seeing from Game of Thrones and House of the Dragons, where you could see like they're not as smart. They're going to kind of ruin it for themselves. And you can see it too in Maekar's son Aerion, who's kind of like an ultimate douchebag and is the instigator for this show when he wants to yank the girl's fingers for the puppet dragon display, like her slaying the dragon, and like Dunk punches him out, and then Egg intervenes. Like that whole scene, like you can already tell those two are bad eggs. But yeah, Baelor, my favorite Targaryen, Eric. I've said it. I'll let you speak on the Targaryens now before I just monologue for 5 minutes. But what were your thoughts on the Targaryens?
Great breakdown of them. I didn't really look at it that way to see that it's going to be the line of Maekar. That's the kind of first glimpse at their descent into madness. Whereas had Baelor had the chance to take the throne, maybe we get a different history, right? But no, just the two brothers. Baelor, unbelievable character. From his first scene with Maekar, I feel like every time each one of them had a line of dialogue, I was always in reverence of what Baelor was saying, and then kind of disgusted at Maekar, where it was a stark divide of sounding super intelligent, well-spoken, well-thought, and then just kind of rash and really standoffish, and he would swear a lot too, is something I noticed with Maekar, and it made him come off as dumber, honestly. So no, Baelor, just so cool, would really listen to people too, which is a trait that I respected in how he goes about making decisions. He takes in the information that he's given and doesn't make a rash decision. He'll sit on it for a bit. It really exemplifies what a true leader should look like. Not only that, but is also willing to freaking get in the fight, a la what Stefan Fossaway should have done, and fight for what's right, even if it means going against his own family. We'll get to that moment later, though. But the two brothers there, great divide between what the both sides of the Targaryens, right? Because there are some good Targaryens, which we're seeing in House of the Dragon, and then the ones who kind of give into their impulses and a little darker nature. And just to throw comparisons out there, Makar kind of reminded me of Chuck from Better Call Saul, so Jimmy's brother.
Yeah.
And
Looked like the actor. Yeah.
yes, and Baylor, they could have had Michael Fassbender play this character. It would have been the exact same performance. He reminded me of him so much, it was nuts.
Oh,
But
good call.
that's all I would have for those two characters. And then, like you said, Arion, he reminded me of Theon Greyjoy, that scumbag. He was the one absolute weasel who got everything going. But he was a great character, though. I truly couldn't stand him because he represented the entitlement of the Nepo baby of, I'm the son of the prince, I can get away with murder, can do whatever I want, no consequences.
Yeah.
Demand a friggin' trial of 7 because I'm too afraid to get down in the mud 1v1 against this guy who I know I can't beat, so I'm going to make 6 other people or 12 other people risk, or 13 other people risk their lives for something that I did, right? So, anyways, that was a lot too, but the Targaryens were amazing characters. We didn't really get the other two, like Baelor's son. We didn't spend much time with him, and the other drunk. We didn't really. Who cares about him? But yeah, no. The season picked up at the puppet show when Dunk stepped in, and then it was Trial of 7 onwards, and I was dialed in again. It had like I will be your champion, Oberyn Martell vibes when Baelor. I had chills at that scene. We can get to that. Like, what was your thought on the build-up of the Trial of 7 and then the trial itself?
The build-up was great because they show them the recruitment of the teams, and this show's building up to this moment. I thought the show would. Initially, I thought the show was building up to the jousting tournament, but no,
Same.
The actual climax is the Trial of the 7, and I thought it had a great build-up, but not too long. We didn't have to wait more than one episode. They did throw in a couple of, like, the flashback episode with a young Dunk and Rafe,
yeah.
the girl. That was cool, like a bit of a backstory on how Dunk is emotionally and what happened in his life. It's all motivation for later. I guess they did that during the trial because it was motivation to get up. But no, the trial build-up was great, Eric. And when Baelor steps out, rides out, bone-chilling moment. This is why we watch TV, for these moments. Okay, should Baelor have done that? He is the hand of the king, guys, and he's risking his life for this comp or a hedge knight. And I don't know, like, the smart move would have been to not do that. But I think, as Makar, I think Baelor had ulterior motives. He kind of, maybe it's an opportunity to get rid of people that are his enemy, people from within his own family. Let's be real. Makar did the same thing, like taking out his brother. Like, that was a calculated, I'll say it's smart move to what he did to Baelor, like getting your brother like that from the back and ending his life. Like, that's a strategic power play to do. And now he's eliminated, and you can say, hey, it was during the combat, the trial. But yeah, did you like the stylistic choice, Eric, during the trial of showing everything from, like, Dunk's perspective, like a bit like Battle of the Bastards-esque with chaos everywhere and, like, poor field of vision, and, like, you're just seeing stuff come out of the mist and shadows. Like, I thought that was pretty, on a ground level, like, a harrowing look at, like, combat in that time, where it's a little confusing. Things can come at you from either side. You can get whacked in the head at any moment. Like, did you like that chaotic, wild, stylistic choice they chose to show the trial in?
Oh, I loved it. And that was another unique layer to the show, is that we've never seen those kind of camera angles to showcase, like you mentioned Battle of the Bastards, but we never got that first person, like you're playing a video game or in a virtual reality setting, to see what it would actually be like. Like, we're here sitting here in our cozy homes podcasting, talking about, like, it'd be cool to enter a tournament as a knight in medieval times, but you really want to be in that situation where you can barely see anything out of that helmet and things are coming at you a mile a second. One wrong move, you got a mace to the back of the head, you're dead when you had your whole life figured out. Like, it was a great way to really show the kind of pressure these people are under, how it really is life or death, how fast-paced it is. No, unbelievable. And then when you're talking about point of view, another stylistic choice that they made, and you've talked about already, but that flashback mid-episode I think that got a bit of backlash, and even myself watching the flashback, I was kind of like, because the episode starts, the battle has begun, it's chaotic
Yeah.
and everything, but then Dunk gets knocked out, and I actually like that you see the helmet from within the helmet, you see him go down, and then mud goes into the helmet, and it's like going onto the camera lens that was obviously propped in the helmet. That was cool too, but anyways, then we're taking a break from the battle now to go to a flashback. I was
Mhm.
kind of being like, okay, like I want to get back to the battle. I want more
Yeah.
of this, less of the flashback. But that was a super important flashback too, and not only showing us how Dunk and Sir Arlen of Pennytree got together, but also showing that Sir Arlen did exactly what Dunk did in stepping up and helping people in need when he really didn't need to, right? Dunk stepped in for Tenzel Tutal at the puppet show, and obviously it's kind of different there where he most likely wants to sleep with Tenzel, whereas I mean, Sir Arlen of Pennytree was just stepping in out of the goodness of his heart, or maybe he was just absolutely
Mhm.
buckled and wanted to get into it.
Yeah.
Some people, who knows what that did,
Yeah.
Jen. But he's still stepping up for people in need. So those mirrors, that parallel there, and then the iconic just get up, motivation, all that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the flashback overall. Did you like it? Did it kind of take you out of it? Were you kind of like me, thinking, okay, I want to get back to it, or yeah, what were your thoughts
I,
on that?
I was thinking like you, getting like wanting to get back to it because I knew the episode's only half an hour, and I'm like, there's not a lot of time left. We could have had more fighting show. Like they could have shown more fighting, which they do. To be fair, they do after that. Like there's the Arian and Dunk beatdown is pretty cool. Like
Yep.
honestly, like I don't know why Arian didn't want to face him one on one. Like he's way more skilled than Duncan with weapons, and you could see he knows how to fight, but he doesn't. He can't match that brute strength. But I think he could have taken Duncan 1v1. I think Braun versus like a bigger guy in Game of Thrones, right? It's all about your strategy, and Dunk has no strategy. He's just overwhelmingly strong. Um, and just I have to mention the armor the Targaryens are wearing. Absolute like wicked. Like Arian's helmet is amazing in my opinion. I thought it looked super cool and sharp and
Agreed.
very very badass. Yeah, would I have liked to seen the other fighting, like the maybe Lionel fighting and the Kingsguard and other stuff? Sure, but again, they chose to show Duncan's perspective, and I respect that choice. I could have watched a whole hour of fighting in the mud and like grueling exertion and like overcoming all odds, which they show more in a quicker format for this show. Everything happens a little faster, so that's good. But yeah, and then I mean, there was never any doubt that Duncan would, like, I knew he'd prevail. I didn't think he'd get beat up as much as he did. Like he was like half dead in my opinion, like Arian too, and then he finally submits. I'm so glad it's over. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends with the Baylor reveal where he's like, "Oh, my head feels funny," and he pops his helmet off and half his head's missing. That was quite shocking. I really thought Baylor would be like the next king, and I thought he was locked in as the next king. It really was a foolish decision to enter that duel, that trial. So, but are you with me, Eric? Like, make a 100% targeted move, like super smart power play.
Yeah, like you wanna think and hope, no, but given what we know of him, just of the limited stuff we've seen, he's freaking Arian's father. Where do you think he learned this shit from? Like it was most likely a targeted attack, right? Which sucks. And
Yeah.
even in saying I've read the book, that was 3-4 years ago. I forgot. I had no idea if Baylor was gonna make it. That was my only hope, is that I wanted him to make it. And I guess Raymond Fossaway, Lionel is sure, but I really wanted Baylor to make it through because I knew there were going to be some political ramifications for him to make it through, right? Like he's now someone who would want Dunk around, and he even indicated that before his death. He said, "We need more good men like you." As soon as he said, like, "I need help with my helmet," I'm like, he's done. I knew there was going to be something up with, like, "Oh, we can't take it off," or there's something there. It sucked, but it's if you're a I don't know, if you're a good character, universally liked, odds are you're not gonna make it through in Game of Thrones. So that's kind of the rule of thumb,
True.
right? So, and it's
so true.
the limited amount of screen time he had and the aura he had in his scenes. It was like I already said, like an Oberyn moment. I will take Sir Duncan's side, and then the friggin' Game of Thrones theme song is playing. Epic moment, and while it was a sick moment, a turning of the tides for us, there was always a part of me that thought he was gonna die. I just foolishly hoped he wouldn't. But that's how it goes. You knew Dunk was gonna be safe though. Hilarious. Egg just openly cheering against his brother in the stands. Wait! That
was cool.
guttural yell. Now guy went medieval on there, but yeah. No. The Trial of Seven, highlight of the season, and then the next episode though I really enjoyed as well, just kind of wrapping everything up and now setting up Dunk and Egg on their next journey. Like I really liked how that took place as well, where it, like you knew, did you think that they weren't gonna join force at the end, that they would go their separate ways? Like what were your thoughts on where it would go at the end?
Yeah, it wasn't. I had a feeling they'd continue their adventures together, with or without the consent of the dad, and because I knew there'd be other seasons, and I know there's other adventures to be had, which I know nothing about. I don't think I'm gonna read the novella. Like I'll just go in blind. But no, I knew he'd find a way, and I knew Egg was lying right away when he's like, "Oh yeah, my dad said I can go."
Oh yeah.
He said he said it very convincingly to Dunk, and he's like, "All right, let's go."
Yeah.
That was cool. I liked the last episode. It was like the combo after the storm, where it was like, all right, these are the repercussions of what happened. Yes, you won the trial, but like, get the hell out of there. Off to see more lands. Asking to have Egg as the squire. There's a lot of touching moments in the episode, especially with the scene with Lionel Baratheon too was cool, where he invites Dunk to chill with him basically, because he's basically like, we're gonna need men like you, and you could see like the hate for the Targaryens in the Baratheons clan, or in Lionel's eyes, and yeah, I like that. The little seeds of the eventual rebellion are coming. Maybe like very small seeds, but they're there because it's still 100 years. And then Maekar, you get more scenes with him. So fun. I read about this. Maekar has a bunch of children. Namely, one of his sons, Aemon, he sends to be a maester at the Citadel, and that is Aemon Targaryen from Game of Thrones, who's over 100 years old. Because I looked up all his kids, I'm like, I wonder if it's the same Aemon Targaryen. So that's pretty cool. So there is some. Maekar does have good children, like Egg and Aemon. Like the Targaryens are very like, you don't know which one you're gonna get, right? Like they say, spin the wheel.
Yeah. They flip a coin. The gods flip a coin.
Thank you. Yeah, I knew there was a quote there. It wasn't the wheel. You said something else really good too. The Baelor Targaryen commanded the screen just like back in the day. Tywin Lannister commanded the screen, where I hung on every word he said ever since you meet him carving that deer or whatever, like getting the hide. A legendary scene. And Baelor, yes, we didn't get a lot of you, but what we got was really good. And now, hopefully, there's characters like that in the second season. Yeah. The actor who played Duncan was very good. Didn't know, like you said, a lot of unknowns, Eric, but I thought it was very serviceable, kind of dim, but that's the character, and very, not a lot of words, not a lot of long sentences, just a lot of, like, trying to think of what he's about to say, and not always... what he wants to say doesn't always come out, probably. It's probably just stuck in his head, and he can't really express himself like some of the more fancier Targaryens. But, no, he's a really relatable character, and he has courage. He's good-hearted, and he's in these tough spots, but always gets out of them, and I'm glad, because it gives me... He gives you... It's like hope for the common man, which I guess why Sir Duncan becomes like kind of like a folk hero to people later on, hopefully. Yeah, this is freaking very enjoyable show. Did you like the last shot too of the season, Eric?
So good, like a great. People have been comparing it to like the Furious 7 there, Paul Walker and then Vin Diesel going off in their own ways. That was so good. Anytime we got Arlen of Pennytree, I was dialed in. Like, I loved his little scenes sprinkled in there. His last scene, the scene where Dunk asks him like, "Why did you never knight me?" I was like, "Wow, okay, so he didn't knight him." And then you think he's dead, and then he wakes up like mid cries. Like a knight always finishes his story. That was pretty funny. And in that scene specifically, I want to highlight something you said about Dunk, where unknown actor, obviously not the brightest dude, and even his acting chops, they weren't always amazing. In that when those emotional beats, like that scene where he's crying, he didn't look. It wasn't the best crying I found, but in a way, it almost makes perfect sense that a guy like Dunk isn't emotionally attuned and doesn't know how to process emotions like sadness. So for him, crying just comes off looking odd. So in a way, you can get away with anything with this guy. Like he's just a weird dude. He's a simpleton, you know. So it's kind of a get out of jail free card with how any scene with him unfolds. Where even when he's trying to be charismatic, it didn't always work. He's trying to get people to fight on his side, and would it make sense that this most likely illiterate hedge knight is able to rattle off these rousing words a la Otto Hightower, the natural born orator, and just getting people to flock on his side? No. He's a stupid dude who, when he's trying to get people to come on his side, they stand up in the crowds and let out the biggest fart you've ever heard in your life. You know what I mean? So it's just like that's something I like about Dunk, the character, the actor, everything. We've really focused on Dunk and not spoken that much about Egg, but Dunk is the main character here, but I do want to just say I love the dynamic between the two of them. Even like any little line where like Dunk saying when Egg's talking about being worried that he's too short and he'll never grow, something like that. And then Dunk said that, yeah, well, people always made fun of me for being dumb. And then Egg was like, oh, well, what did you do about it? What did you tell them? He's like, huh? Nothing. I just, whatever. He's just like, he can't offer up any wisdom because he's just dumb. Scenes like that, their back and forths were always either hilarious or heartfelt or both. And they found a winning formula here. And this, like, I would put this season up with as good as any Game of Thrones season, honestly. Maybe not like peak, but this was an elite season of TV. I'm gonna throw it out there now. This has a good chance ending the year as my favorite show of the year. We'll see. Like, it's maybe too soon to say, but I'm looking forward to looking back at this year when it's all said and done, because this was an amazing show. I'm gonna rewatch it for sure. I can't wait.
I was just gonna say rewatching it will be easy, and definitely we've watched this 11 months before we're doing our list, right? Yeah. So, wow, that high. You know what? Like, I can't see it off my top 10 for sure. If this is off my top 10, that means we've won the best years in TV history.
Yes.
What you said about Dunk, Eric, was amazing. I'm not going to add anything else because I can't, because that was perfect. Egg, though, I'll just say, man, he's like one of the youngest sons of Makar who has lots of children, and maybe he feels like he doesn't have a spot. Like, he does run away with his dumb brother, Darren the Trunk. And Egg's kind of a manipulator already at that age, you know, a liar, like deception. You can tell he's very smart, but nobody takes him seriously. He's just a kid. So he does he took his fate into his own hand. He took decided to just break off from his family, and maybe because he's rich and entitled and like everything was given to him, he wants to know like how the Dunks of the world live and go to the inn and do all these things and see attorney from the crowd. And when he meets Dunk, it's like, oh, I want to be a squire. You know, maybe Egg wishes to be a knight too one day. Probably not. Like, he absolutely does. And he's just a kid right now. He can't do anything about it. So he's living through Dunk for now in this season. But he's super sharp, like quick-witted, has a sharp tongue, funny. That actor does a great job. Like I said, it reminds me of a little Lord Varys with like the cue ball head, but like he was really good. And when he reveals himself, when he names the guards, he's like, unhand him now. Like, he has strict authority. Like, his tone is very with authority and like kind of a badass moment in the show, honestly. Yeah, no, what a great character. Can't wait to see where they're off to next. They said possibly Dorne, but we'll see. Trying to think of other characters. Oh, Sir Arlen. Yeah, Sir Arlen was really cool character that we don't know much about, but the flashback scene does highlight he is very good-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's fighting those soldiers drunkenly, I'm like, oh my god, this man's like he's fighting so recklessly, but he has skill and he gets away with defeating them and beheading one of them. But like that was sloppy as hell, and that was a sword in those close quarters. I'm like, man, you'd rather have a dagger or something because you can barely swing that thing around. But he makes it work, and yeah, I don't know. He's kind of an enigma,
Mm-hmm.
man of few words. When Dunk was trying to like get people to like say they know Sir Arlen, I'm like, nobody's gonna know Sir Arlen. Sir Arlen barely spoke to anyone. Kind of a lone wolf, right? So yeah, that was cool. Eric, I love this show too. I bet you, when I rewatch the show, I'm gonna love it even more because I'm gonna pick up all the little things, a couple of things you mentioned that I didn't pick up on Egg, but I'm gonna notice all these names and things that I missed the first time. So can't wait for that. This show has the potential, Eric, to be just as good as Game of Thrones, and it's already better than House of the Dragons, in my opinion. House of the Dragons has a lot of issues, but no, I love this show. Anyone listening, you got to watch this show. I mean, if you haven't already, I don't know why you're still listening. Like, you should be watching it then listening to this. But yeah, it was an amazing show.
They just want to hear us talk. If you haven't watched and you're listening, you just want to riff with us. But I think another big plus for this show is it has a lot of great dialogue heavy scenes where, again, the budget's smaller. This isn't an action packed show despite being called a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, where you may think, oh, it's all going to be actually like knights fighting one another. And of course there is a lot of that in the jousting and the tournaments and everything, but it's a lot of sharp a lot of scenes with like undertones and things that are implied, even just exchanges about like, oh, Dunk at the end regretting having Baelor step in for him in the Trial of Seven. He said like, oh, I could have just had my hand and my foot cut instead of any of this. Like, is my hand and foot worth more than the life of a prince? And then Maekar says something. He says like, I highly doubt it, or something like that. And Dunk is going to become an important figure in Westeros history. So, yes, right now it may seem like, no, your hand and foot are insignificant, but you're going to need those two down the road, and we're going to see those exploits in future seasons. So, it's little things like that where those lines make you think, too, where, hey, maybe if I had done this differently, this wouldn't have happened. So, it's a lot of really, really powerful lines that are shared, which again evoke thoughts of peak Game of Thrones, how that dialogue was written for us. So, no, amazing show. I hope we're done though with Sir Arlen. I feel like this season kind of gave him a good overview of what he was about, even though he might have said all of 15 words the whole show.
Yeah.
And is singing in Dothraki for like 20 minutes, it felt like.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that him veering off into the Vale or Valhalla or whatever you want to call it, this is it. Now we're focusing on Dunk and Egg. Going to Dorne, most likely. And I think the plan is I think George R.R. Martin's given the showrunners more stories with Dunk and Egg that are unpublished, so this should go beyond 3 seasons as long as it keeps being produced in this way. And like I said at the start of the episode, I hope they keep this kind of small scale. I don't want to see Dunk leading a troop of drunken Dothraki into battle here against some Tyrell sellswords. I want to just see small scale conflict that he helps resolve. I can easily see them do some sort of Seven Samurai, like a village needs a helper and it's Dunk kind of thing. I could see them going down that path where maybe then that leads to some bigger battles kind of thing. He trains the villagers or whatever. I mean, that story's been done so many times, but that is the kind of story you could see a Sir Dunk in, right? It would make sense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you're right. I don't necessarily want him going to like the King's Landing and being with like the nobles and like stay away from all that high stakes stuff and do more of the Seven Samurai type stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I like, because it's such a small scale show and half-hour episodes, unlike Game of Thrones, which is bouncing from storyline to storyline, and sometimes even in Game of Thrones, you're like, all right, I want to get back to Jon Snow, or I want to get back to Samwell Tarly. No one said that ever. I want to get back to Arya. You know, like this, we don't have that problem. It's always with the same story we're following, and again, the pacing's super tight because of it, and it's never boring. You always want more, but you're never like, all right, this episode's dragging on. Which none of the Game of Thrones episodes dragged on for me. It's just sometimes later on in the later seasons with the storylines I didn't necessarily agree with. Sometimes it felt a little long, and you just want to get back to the meat of the action. Especially in House of Dragons, that's one of its flaws, where sometimes you're not following anyone interesting. But in Night of the Seven Kingdoms, you're always following someone interesting because you're just following the same people constantly. So, yeah, what a great show. Yeah, predictions for season 2, just more hopefully smaller scale stuff, but entertaining and good dialogue, meeting cool personalities, you know, maybe some cool little Easter egg name drops. Some, you know, anyways. I'm excited.
There's going to be some Martells in the mix, no doubt.
Ooh.
Some Sand Snakes, maybe, you know, late night with the Dornish wine skins get flowing. Who knows what kind of situations Sir Dunk is going to find himself in. But, no, it should be good. I can't wait for season 2, which already is either wrapped filming or currently filming and is slated for a 2027 release. So, if they can just keep pumping out these Night of the Seven Kingdoms seasons on a yearly basis, I'll be a happy man seeing those stories told in Westeros. That being said, though, and we can now hop into future Game of Thrones in that season 3 House of the Dragon's right around the corner. I cannot wait for this show, to be honest. Where season 2, yeah, I wasn't that crazy about it as a whole, week to week tuning in. I'm actually currently rewatching House of the Dragon. I'm almost done season 1, which I did enjoy a lot at the time, and I liked it a lot rewatching it this time. So it's actually my third time seeing season 1, but I did not rewatch season 2 at all. So I'm excited to look at it as a whole, binging it basically, knowing what happens and seeing if I was maybe too critical. And not only that, but season 3 has to deliver. This is a massive make or break season for House of the Dragon, and if that season is not strong, then we're in trouble. And they've already said they're shutting it down after season 4, which I like.
Okay.
But I'm excited for season 3. I'll just say that. What are your thoughts right now around Game of Thrones in general and just vibes heading into House of the Dragon?
Well, for the last one, like, I'm very excited for season 3 House of the Dragon, because even though I wasn't the hugest fan of season 2, it's still teed up potentially an amazing setup for season 3. You know, like, we can have a lot of dragon battles and the action we were promised. And I'm not asking for a freaking 1 minute of like 50 minutes of action every episode, but like season 2 felt like half of a season where there was no completion and climax. But I'm still super excited for season 3, because at the end of the day, it's still Game of Thrones universe, super high production. I love seeing the visual stuff in it, like the places, the dragons, the set design. It's really still really top notch, and it's fun to watch. Season 2, I think, did a good job of teeing up season 3, and I forget all the names now, but like the bad side, Rhaenyra, who she's fighting against, like they should be scared now because they have more dragons. You know, some of the bastards have dragons now, so I can't wait to see that. It can really be a dance of dragons and some cool stuff there. Game of Thrones in general, Eric, I'm still super invested in that mythology and that world building that George R. R. Martin did. I'm still a huge fan of Game of Thrones. And I would want to see more spinoffs and things like that. I think we haven't reached the fatigue point yet, like Marvel, like where there's still a lot I want to see from this universe,
Mm-hmm.
and that I'd be more interested in seeing. So, yeah, I'm very excited for the future of Game of Thrones.
Do you have any predictions for what you'd want to see in season 3? Like anything? I can give you a few right off the bat. So for me, and I don't. Actually, have you watched the trailer for season 3 or no? Okay.
No.
So to your point about season 2 feeling like a half season that was teeing up a big event that didn't happen, that's for sure what season 3 is gonna be, that second half of season 2, because
Okay.
season 2 is all build up, and I'm under the impression that season 3 is gonna start off with what should have been the end of season 2 in like a big battle. So I feel like episodes probably 2 is gonna be a massive battle, which I'm very much looking forward to. Now, my call for season 3 is it's going to end with Rhaenyra's winning. I think she gets the
Okay.
throne at the end of season 3, because I'm 99% sure that she is the one who is going to win, because
Mm-hmm.
Daenerys is her descendant. So it would
Mm-hmm.
be strange if she doesn't win and Daenerys has this some sort of entitlement to the throne. Like, it has to be Rhaenyra who wins, and I feel like you make season 3 end on her winning. That's something that can happen there. Now, along the way, I feel like there's going to be a lot of death, and I feel like Daemon is probably going to be the big loss on that side. I don't want that to happen, but in my call, going back to the season 1 days, was I think Daemon is going to kill Kristen Cole, but Aemond is going to kill Daemon. So I'm just going to get that call back out there. That's what I think is going to happen. I really don't want that to happen, because I don't like anybody on the other side, really. But you got to put some respect on Aemon's name, in that he is a formidable fighter. He has the biggest dragon in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have Daemon just kill everybody, right? Like Jason
Yeah.
killing Aemon, that's for sure. I would love
Yeah.
to see that, though. That would be like the equivalent of Robb killing Joffrey for what he did to Ned, right? We never got that in Game of
Right.
Thrones. Give me Jace somehow killing Aemond. I want to see Jace do something too. Like, I was gonna say a mild spoiler. It's in the trailer there, but you see Jace on a dragon in the trailer, and I'm like, all right, let's freaking go, man. Do something this season. Like, I want,
Yeah.
like, that death scene in season 1 is all time tragic. Lucerys, like, I'm gonna probably, I don't know, I'm gonna watch it there, but I hate that scene so much, seeing him get killed like that. But anyways, so those are my calls. Literally need Kristen Cole to die. I really don't want them to give us a redemption tour for this guy. He sucks.
Oh.
Like, he's really the same dude we thought he was when we did our season 1 pods. Like, the guy sucks. He needs to die. But anyways, those are my calls. Rhaenyra, episode 8, on the throne. And then who knows what's happening in season 4.
I mean, I would like to see that too. I think my call is I just would like to see major characters die and like have the plot moving forward maybe at a faster pace, and not having at the start of the season we have maybe half of the characters left over, and then we can have new characters or just have less, because there aren't a lot of characters right now. I don't think Damon's making it out of this season as well. Like,
Yeah.
you can't keep everybody, right? Like, cannot keep everybody. I do believe Rhaenyra does. She has to put her as the ruler, but then maybe season 4 shows her like the struggles of ruling, and your enemies are never truly vanquished as the ruler. Like, what would you do if you were the king of if you're on the Iron Throne? Like, if it's peaceful, is it actually peaceful, or are people planning behind your back, right? Like, you're never truly at peace, which is why I would never want to be king or president of anything, because you always have to be on the ball and on the go, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I want, Eric, is a faster paced season with I don't want to say more action, because Game of Thrones isn't always just fighting and action, but just less filler, more killer. You know?
Yeah, pun intended.
I'm doing a Sum 41 album here, all filler, no filler, or whatever. Yeah, no, that one I'm less excited for, but of course I'm going to tune in day one and cheer for Rhaenyra and her clan, and I don't know. cheer for Kristen Cole's death. That guy does a good job of being a hate. Like, he's got a punchable face, but he does a good job.
He is good for sure.
Yeah. So,
like
you're hungry.
So let's say Damon and Rhaenyra don't die in this season, or they don't win this season. Do you end the show on like season 4? Is what I'm saying I want to see happen. Rhaenyra on the throne, end of season 3. Let's say you keep that for the end of the season 4. That's how you end the show, with them winning, and then you don't show anything that happens after. Or do you show them winning and then, like you said, the subsequent struggles that will inevitably happen that could lead to their deaths? You know what I mean? Like, I would rather the show ends on a note of let's just get a dub here. Like, I don't want to see anything happen. Like, I don't want to see Daemon die. I don't want to see Rhaenyra die either. So I don't know how you end the show if it's not on a win, you know? Like, how would this show feel good if it ends like last episode of season 4 is like, yeah, Rhaenyra gets killed, you know what I mean? Even though she's won in season 3. Like, that would suck. I don't want that to happen.
You posed a lot of good questions there, Eric, and I'm the first one. Definitely the show, just better television in general. The show should end with Rhaenyra being victorious.
Yeah.
It should not end with what I said, with showing her rule and her downfall. Mm-hmm. We should have 2 more seasons, and the end game is she sits on the throne. Yeah, that would be better television. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Show an epic struggle to get there, and then we don't have to see anything after. You can read up on it. They can do another show on the years in between that. But no, you're right. It should win with her victorious, you know? Yeah.
Because
that's a good call, Eric.
We're just assuming she's winning here. For all I know, is she does not win. Like, there's a chance it is Alicent who still wins. But let's say Rhaenyra does win. And I know we're going over this for a long time there, but is she accepted as the ruler too, right? So that's, again, to your point where, like, okay, she beat Alicent and them, but does everyone else want her as queen too? So anyways, these are all things that I hope they cover, but I just want the good stuff. Like, I hope she just wins and it's a happy ending. And their house is dying with the Mad King and Daenerys going crazy in the last episode and all that. So, yeah, there were a few people who did respond to the story about Night of the Seven Kingdoms and excitement level going into season 3 of House of the Dragon. So my mom replied saying that she's pumped for season 3 of House of the Dragon. The homie Ron Antoine said not a chance in terms of if you will watch. So it's good to know, you know. So not everybody's about this show, and Ron is one of those folks who will not be tuning in. Season 2 did irreparable damage. And then the homie Jeff Lavoie, he responded that it was Night of the Seven Kingdoms was an amazing show. 6 episodes is blasphemous. Each episode could have been 10 minutes longer. Yeah. And his take for season 3 is season 3 will be epic. Battle of the Gullet. So that's the fight I was talking about. That should happen in episode 2. So that's something to look forward to. And he hopes Alicent dies in season 3.
Oh.
Yeah. Which I'm all on board with. I hate Alicent. Like, rewatching it again, like, yeah, she's Olivia Cook, great in the role, but hateable character. You understand her motivations, though? Like, she just wants to see her kids do well, blah, 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 blah. But she's the worst. There's so many... You should rewatch House of the Dragon, Matt. There's so many times where Rhaenyra attempts to make peace with them, and they, out of their hubris or Otto Hightower influence and pride, refuse their acts of peace and goodwill. And that's what leads to the war. There are so many chances for this not to happen. The Hightowers are 1,000% to blame for everything that's happened for us to watch and not watch in the case of Ron Antoine.
Yeah, well said. Maybe I should... it's been so long since for the first 2 seasons for me, so that's a good point. You catch a lot on rewatch. I'm a big believer in rewatches for that reason.
Yeah.
I have one last Game of Thrones questions for you, Eric, and then we can move on to the random recommendations. But, all right, we're talking about possible other spinoffs here. One, should they do a Robert's Rebellion spinoff?
Yeah.
2, is the show quality or entertainment going to be dampened by the fact that we already know the end result, or it doesn't matter because we want the journey, not the destination. We could care less how we know how it ends, but seeing the how is going to be super badass and entertaining, even though we know the end of the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've had this take about House of the Dragon where after the first season we didn't know if we were going to get many more time jumps. I thought that maybe we could do this whole show where it's covering every single part of the Targaryen dynasty and the last season would be a Robert's Rebellion. Like, that would have been cool, but now that's obviously not happening. So now are we going to do a separate show, which is now the third Game of Thrones spin-off for a Robert's Rebellion that, like you said, we know how it ends. I don't know. Like, I would obviously watch it, of course. It'd be cool, but I don't think it's my number one, like, I need this spin-off thing. I think something that interests me more is actually more the other show that they actually canceled, which is the First Men, White Walkers, Children of the Forest story. Like, I want to know more about that world personally, in that it's something we literally got no answers to other than some dude was pinned next to a tree and got a piece of dragon glass shoved in his chest and became possibly the Night King. Who knows? So finding out more about that lore would be cooler in my opinion. Or even going across the narrow seas and spending time in Essos, which there's so much uncharted territory over there that I would love to see some stuff going on there. I actually don't want a Jon Snow spinoff. It does not interest me at all. An Arya spinoff either. Another one I would be interested in is like Aegon's Conquest actually, or Old Valyria. Seeing those kind of really different settings of, they talk about Valyria is the equivalent of like Numenor at this point. So it'd be cool to see the dragons at the peak height of their prowess, and the Valarians and Targaryens and other houses, because there's other houses that did not make it over to Westeros. So those would be my top ones. The Essos one, whatever. But like the mystical elements of Game of Thrones, that there's a lot of unexplored that I would like there. So I know I covered a bunch of spin-offs there, but what would yours be? And is there an appetite on your end for the Robert's Rebellion as a standalone spin-off?
There is a small appetite in me for the Robert's Rebellion, but not as much as the mystical, like the origin of Westeros with the men getting there and the mythical aspect, like you said. That and Aegon's Conquest, those are my top two. Because I would love to see Aegon's Conquest. I only read about it a little bit, but it's pretty cool. But like a more fantasy show would be cool too, with like not fairy, for lack of a better word, fairy creatures and like the good versus evil that we have going on, because ultimately that's what it is. And then men approach like the Andals, the first Andal making its way onto in Westeros. And Essos show would be cool too. There's so many, it's huge, way bigger than Westeros, and there's so many cities and land to cover. The Rebellion, honestly, Eric, that would have to be like a limited series, like 3-4 part episode, 4 hours long type deal where, because honestly, we know what happens and the event happens so fast. And if they stretch it out, we're going to be bored because we're like, okay, get to the sack of King's Landing, get to the Kingslayer part, get to the Battle of the Trident. That's all we want to see really at the end of the day, right? Is the Battle of the Trident, not like the sea. Anyways. So you're right, Eric. I think those other ideas are more interesting. I was just curious to know your thoughts, so you answered them.
You saying like a limited series on Robert Rebellion, I just thought of this right now. You present it to us as like a documentary style, where it's like you're getting interviews after the fact from guys like Rhaegar was out of his fucking mind when we stormed the Trident. And you just get like shots. That'd be hilarious. Like obviously couldn't work. I was thinking like a Band of Brothers kind of style, like found footage. It'd be something.
Recall the events.
Give it a different spin on it, and anyways, I just thought of that just now. But yeah, No, I mean, of course, any spin-off, like, I honestly do want, because there's so many possibilities with this world that they could keep spoon-feeding us countless spin-offs and we'd eat them all up. But, yeah, prioritizing them in a matrix or a roadmap, like, those would be my top three right there. Anything that has a fantasy element to it, because we already have, like, the one with no fantasy elements in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, so you get that mirroring. Perfect. Yeah, no, I think Game of Thrones right now, with two shows dropping this year, like I have high hopes for House of the Dragon season 3. Like I said, Night of the Seven Kingdoms is going to be top 10. I said it's my number one show end of the year, but I'm throwing it out there. There's a world in which House of the Dragon season 3 also in that top 10.
Okay.
Not gonna force it, but I'm hopefully willing it into existence. If it happens, remember who had it first. But yeah. So I guess that's it for me too on the Game of Thrones content. I believe, like Mike and the crew did about 11 still being alive. You know, but
Get some. Yeah, I'm all. I've talked way too much too. I'm just gonna ramble on. Do you want to get into random recommendations, Eric?
Yeah.
Quickly.
yeah, let's do it.
I have an album, a movie, and a book.
Hey,
So
let's go. I
you
like
pick
that.
which one I'm gonna talk about first. What do you want to hear about first?
Let's go. Let's go album. We haven't gone over music in a while.
I know.
want to hear something there.
This album surprised me, Eric, because I didn't think I'd like it, but unashamedly, I'm really digging this album. I don't know why. It's just catchy, and I don't know much about Baby Keem, but his album Casino, I've been really enjoying. Like,
Nice.
I've listened to it 4 times now. Great in the car. Yeah, I really like the album Casino by Baby Keem.
Mm-hmm.
Catchy song, good beats. Have you listened to it, and what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I really liked it as well. Like I was a big fan of his first album, The Melodic Blue in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan. And so yeah, it had been 5 years since he put out an album. So Baby Keem is Kendrick Lamar's cousin, for those of you who don't know. So they collaborate frequently. Kendrick's on here a few times. I like both his features. Especially House Money. I think I preferred that one than Good Flirts. But yeah, Birds and the Bees. My favorite song is Highway 95 Part 2. I love that song. Like, 95, on the highway. Just so good. Yeah. It's short album, 11 songs. No skips in my books. No, big fan. I've listened to it a few times as well. Big fan. I'm happy he delivered on this because this was one that, as soon as it was announced, I was looking forward to it. And yeah, big fan. 2026 got some good albums so far in the rap game. I'll throw another one in there by someone who, admittedly, I normally check out his albums when they drop, but they just don't stick with me. Might have to do with his voice, his flow, overly complex, like rambling like me right now with his wordplay. But this one, it really worked. And I'm talking 656, an album by Rock Marciano. Big fan of this album. Again, not long, 12 songs, 32 minutes, fully self-produced. And Rock Marciano is someone who has been rapping underground scene for 20 plus years, and he's been a big influence on artists that I like and collaborated with, like West Side Gun, Benny the Butcher, guys like that. But his own music I've never been crazy about, but this one really liked. And this could be the A Night of the Seven Kingdoms of my 2026 hip-hop albums, where could have a place for it when it's all said and done on the top 10. But yeah, and it features a guy called Errol Holden on 2 songs who I'd never heard of in my life before. Snaps on his 2 features. And he's now someone that I'm going to be looking forward to whatever he puts out next. Who these are 2 super lyrical guys from what I can gather about this Errol fella. He's snapping lyrically on here, and Rock is a big wordsmith himself, so really lyrical rap. If you are a fan of that kind of underground crazy puns and wordplay and rap, this is something to check out. 656, Rock Marciano. Good stuff.
Yeah, I've checked this one out too, Eric. I really liked it. I'm definitely gonna re-listen to it soon. Because I only listened to it once and I just moved on. But hearing you talk about it, I'm like, okay, I gotta check that one out again. It's hard sometimes. Like, I don't want to put too much attention on an album, and there's always more to listen to. I pepper in re-listens too from like older years too, as do you, Eric, so you don't go crazy and listen to just 1 year for the year. But yeah, I'll check that one out again. The movie I watched, you've definitely seen, Eric, and you've loved it because I read your review on it. But the movie I watched that I loved was 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Big fan of this movie. Nice. It's the second in a trilogy, so it has the advantage, and sometimes it's a disadvantage, but here it's an advantage of there's no start or ending to this movie. You're just thrown right in, part two, and the ending is great too because like it's going to go off right into the third movie. But big fan of the pacing. Like I was never bored going back from the Ray Fiennes character to the Jack O'Connell character, Jimmy, with all those other Jimmys. Like this can be a spoiler-free review, guys, by the way, so don't worry. But the Jack O'Connell juxtaposed with the Ray Fiennes character, like, but the back and forth, that's what hooked me into this movie. They were both fantastic, and I loved what both sides were doing. It was brutal at times, like very gory and shocking. I didn't think it'd go there. It was really funny at times. It was very morbid, but ultimately it was a very satisfying story, in my opinion, and a good ending to lead into a third movie. So very pleased with this movie, and a good soundtrack too that you mentioned in your review, I believe, a good score, or both. But yeah, the acting, guys, and just the adventure aspect of the movie is good. So yeah, The Bone Temple, definitely better than 28 Years Later. So a sequel that beats the original for sure, or the first one for sure.
Oh yeah, I talked about it last episode, so I'm not gonna go over it too much, but definitely gory. Like there are some disturbing scenes in here, but once you're past those, like the acting is so good, the story's interesting, you're in it with the characters. Super good. Like a really, really good movie. I quite enjoyed. I'm glad you did as well. Yeah, no, the Jimmys, some sadistic twats, if you will. But yeah, no, good stuff. So I thought you were actually going to recommend a movie I've also watched recently, Predator Badlands. So we mentioned it in our last episode where we both, of course, had Predator Killer of Killers on our top 10. So we watched the other Predator movie, also directed by the same man, Dan Trachtenberg, who's kind of giving the Predator franchise a revival of sorts with Prey, Predator Badlands, and Predator Killer of Killers. So no, Badlands I really enjoyed, honestly. From the onset, I love the vibe that the Predator is finally a main character that we can cheer for. Like, I always loved these characters. They look so cool, and there's a lot of interesting lore. The action scenes with them are fun, but they're always placed as our antagonists in these movies, so it was fun to finally be able to root for one who's trying to get the respect of his friggin' sicko father for some reason, and teams up with Elle Fanning, who is a cyborg in this movie, on another dangerous planet where there's other creatures and threats to him, and just going on this crazy journey to kill another monster, basically. And yeah, that the hero's journey, trying to prove yourself, learn and grow along the way, meet allies, change, and find out what you're made of and who you want to be at the end of the day, right? Like a classic story. It's nothing we've never seen before. It had a lot of those sci-fi tropes you've seen, but really enjoyable, cool action, great looking movie. Had like I said in my review, a Mandalorian vibe to it, where it's like they could make 100 of these movies where it's like little mini stories where he's going off to different planets and having a little quest that he completes, and really enjoyable. So yeah, Predator Badlands, fun movie, definitely recommend.
Yeah, I echo everything you said, Eric. I also really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's simple, it's predictable, but it's so much fun to watch, and it flies by. Like the movie flew by for myself. Really sick action. All the weapons and stuff, like when they were fighting, and him fighting his brother at the beginning, that was like a cool little great way to open the movie. Yeah, I loved all his weapons, and then him using the land to create more weapons later on. That was cool. I love the tie into the Alien universe with the Weyland Yutani androids that you see a lot of those in that Alien Earth show, and now you see them in this movie. So, and they're very strong, but potential for an Alien Predator crossover part 3, like the first two were not so successful, but they need to do it again because I think it could be really badass. I like cheering for the Predator. I forget what the aliens called, like their race is called, but like they're fun to watch, and they're the ultimate hunters. And yes, he's an alien, but there's stuff you can relate to, guys, here, like wanting to please your parents and overcoming adversity. You're the runt of the litter. You're always dismissed. You're always called weak, and now you want to prove yourself. So we've seen that in a million other things, but this is done with Alien Predator, and it's really well done and entertaining to watch. So, yeah, I recommend you guys go on Disney Plus and watch it. All right, the last thing I'm going to talk about, it's going to be so hard to talk about. Hopefully you help me out, Eric. It's my book that I finished, the first book in the Three Body Problems trilogy. So first book is the Three Body Problem. I am currently like 100 pages in the second one, which I'm loving. But the first book, the Three Body Problem, sci-fi plus every other genre you can think of except romance, maybe. Like this book, I can't describe it. All I'm going to say is, the build-up, the last like 100, 200 pages, I was totally engrossed, Eric. Like, I finally understanding what's going on with the aliens and the different characters we're introduced to. Like, there's a lot that I was like, oh, like the light bulb was illuminating in my head, like the last half of the book, where I was like, oh, cool, like the whole time. And now reading the second one, I'm even a little more confused again, but I know I can see where it's heading. And I had possible thoughts for the third book. Like, I'm like, oh, is the third book going to be this? I hope it's this. Like, but I truly don't know, because this author has created such an original piece of work where I don't know how he came up with these concepts, Eric, because I'm like, every concept he introduces, I'm like, I've never heard or seen this before in my life. Like, confusion mixed with excitement is how I would describe these books. And cool concepts, but sometimes just utter confusion. Like, how would you describe the first book?
Well, so your experience is really similar to mine, where it's like, you're saying, like, okay, I finally get it now, and then you're like, I started the second one and I'm confused again. But like, there's constantly new things coming up. I'm just gonna say right now, don't try to predict where the third one's going. You're not even done the second one. These books take turns. Like, it's an ambitious world that he's created, but when you do start to be able to visualize in your head and see what he's talking about, like in the first one, it took me a long time, but like you, at the end, I could see the vision, the characters being rolled up and accumulate like moisture or whatever. I forget what happens in the first one from that point of view there, but when they're in that game, the Trisolaris, the different civilizations and stuff, like it is crazy and wide scale, but there is a focused plot and it all connects. Right, so as we pass through and experience things with different characters, like there is a connectivity thread, and nothing that you've been introduced to so far is just, okay, now it's new characters, forget about the old. Like it's all connected, right? So it's important to remember to, like, what the problem with me is that I read the first one and then I think I read the second one a year later. So I was reading it and being like, oh yeah, who is this again? So you going back to back to back, hopefully, it should even make even more sense to you. So no, it's hard to describe. Like, I don't even think I've described it really in this whole time I've been talking, but it's just a really unique sci-fi, different civilization being perceived as a threat or potential ally to Earth. People trying to communicate with them. What does that look like, right? Communicating with a civilization that's light years, millions of light years away from you. What does that look like? How many years did it take to figure out technology to get to them? Like, that's kind of what they're trying to figure out in this world. But no, it's really cool. Like, a super fun and different concept in here, and executed really well in the end. Dark Forest. I like the second book more than the first one, and I like the third one more than the second one. So I wonder if it'll be the same for you.
Good to hear.
Yeah. So.
Really I can't wait. No, I'm loving the second one so far. I'm reading more and more. I actually started reading at work on my breaks to progress my reading, and I want to do a top 10 at the end of the year, or at least a top 5. So I want to do at least one book a month, if not 2. So
nice. That's a good goal. I'm same here. I'm on Morning Star right now in the Red Rising trilogy. Nice. I'm 100 or so pages in myself. The Golden Sun one ended on a big cliffhanger, or a big bang right at the end, like the last few pages.
Right?
Like typically with those books, like at the end, I kind of start to doze off and think of I'm thinking of the third book, right? I'm not even focused on the second one. I got my theories for the third, but you got to be staying till the end for this one. Don't leave before the credits. And
Jesus,
yeah,
right?
it's a big one. So no, I'm really enjoying the trilogy as well. I'm debating whether or not I'm gonna want to continue to read these books or try to get into like different trilogies. Like I actually have like the Gunslinger by Stephen King
Ooh.
is ready for me at the library, so I might try to just finish this
Okay.
one and then get into that too. Maybe just take a break. Um, but
It's
I'm
not a
really
bad
enjoying
idea,
it.
Eric. Yeah.
Do
No,
you
just
have?
because the Morning Star, that first trilogy is the other ones. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just gonna say Morning Star was my favorite book out of the six I've read so far. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm just guessing there's
Um,
gonna be some sort of like, or we're dealing with like Darrow's grandkids in the fourth one or something. That's kind of my call in how it's like two different trilogies, right? So I think it's a time jump situation, but it could be way off. I don't know, but that's what I think. Like a Dune situation, right? Like
yeah.
it's Paul for the first 2 and 3, and then.
I don't want to say, but I'll let you know once you're done Morning Star. I'll give you my thoughts. But to me, Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star are a perfect little trilogy, super easy to read. And yeah, like you don't want to get like fatigue and read the next three, and then the fourth one's coming out this year. But you can read them, but like maybe not in one shot. So the Gunslinger, you heard anything about that, Eric? Or because I've read the whole franchise of the Dark Tower.
Nope, not really. I just know they made a movie in like 2017 or something. Matthew McConaughey, Idris Elba.
Yeah.
So I like
one of the
going
most-
in blind, but
It's one of the most unique sagas ever created, even for Stephen King. I'm just gonna say it's one of the craziest rides ever. The 7 books he's written, the Dark Tower franchise, it's insane, and it encompasses all his universes. Like he has I don't know. I feel like Stephen King created this whole world where all those things coexist together, like in Derry or like in Castle Rock, like his fictional stuff. But the Dark Tower is even more like thought-provoking in terms of combining things. But the first book's great. It's like a Western. It's really, really good. The Gunslinger is excellent.
it's the three-body problem of his literary works.
Oh, 100%. He has one of his books. He says it's an homage to Seven Samurai. The 5th book in that series is, and he doesn't hide the fact. It's an homage to the Seven Samurai. So that's an amazing book too. Like the 5th one was great. No, I can't wait for you to read that. Actually, that'd be cool to talk about. Honestly.
All right, yeah. Could make an appearance in the top 10. We'll see. But yeah, I mean that's all I would have to recommend right now. There, been watching a few other movies there, but nothing too much that's worth. Like I Love You Man, Materialists. I would recommend to not watch. Honestly, Matt, it was a rom-com from last year. Pretty weak. Pedro Pascal, Dakota Johnson, and Chris Evans. Just wasn't buying it.
Yeah, good cast, but yeah, I read your review and I'm like, yeah, I'm staying away from that.
And it was the director.
I've never seen I Love You Man.
It was the woman who directed Past Lives too, Celine Song. So kind of a disappointing second movie from her, but anyways. Past Lives, really good. Recommend that if you haven't seen that. It's a rom-com, more rom, less calm, but there's definitely some relatable stuff in there about like 2 young children growing up in Asia, and then one of them moves to the States. They continue to maintain a relationship via Skype. There's romantic attachments there, but then time goes by. Like, they have their separate lives. It's kind of like a what-if situation, and then they re-meet later in life. Really good movie. It was 2023, one of the top movies that year, so check it out.
I concur with that recommendation.
So yeah, we're
I
covering
got nothing else
from
to
Night of the Seven Kingdoms to rom-coms are spanning over many years and the what-ifs of it all, so no stone left unturned in this Game of Thrones pod, but A lot of fun going over that, Matt, with you. We're for sure going to look at House of the Dragon. When Season 3 is wrapped up, we're going to do a pod on that to see, what we got. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it Night of the Seven Kingdoms quality? I hope it is. But any final notes for the listeners?
I just want to thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed our Night of the Seven Kingdoms talk. Eric, I had a lot of fun discussing the show with you and then discussing House of the Dragons and other stuff. I honestly can't wait for the House of the Dragons pod because good or bad, it's going to be fun to talk about. It's just like discussing things with you is really fun. Yep. And I hope everyone likes listening to it too. Thank you for everyone who submitted answers to Eric's question on Instagram. And thank you for listening to the podcast and enjoy hopefully the last month of winter.
Well said, man.
Yeah, thank you guys.
So yeah, thanks a lot everybody for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Continue, enjoy. We're springing forward next weekend. The days are going to get brighter. Days are ahead. The sun will shine on us again. And yeah. Peace.